And my name is Kirsty Hogg, and I am the creator of Why Buy Gold, which is a Facebook group. And as well, I am a Gold Tribe member with the company called Unique, which is responsible for getting gold and silver into the hands of ordinary people all over the world. I'm also an affiliate for Anglo Far East Bullion Company, and delighted to be here with you tonight. I'd like to introduce you to Bill Murphy, who grew up in Glen Ridge, New Jersey, graduated from the School of Hotel Administration at Cornell University in 1968. And in football, in his senior year, he broke all the Ivy League single-year pass receiving records, and then became a starting wide receiver for the Boston Patriots of the American Football League. And then he went on to work for various Wall Street brokerage firms and specializing in commodity futures. And from there, he became affiliated with introducing brokers and eventually started his own brokerage on Fifth Avenue in New York. Bill Murphy and Chris Powell are the founders of Gata, and since then, Bill has greatly contributed to the public awareness of gold and continues to do so on a daily basis with his commentary that he writes on lemetropolecafe.com. And for those of you listening tonight and sharing in this broadcast, there will be a special promotional offer. Bill will be sending you more information on this. It's a 2-week free trial, and there's an offer that he'd like to share with you, but we're going to need your email addresses. So in order to get the word out to you, please enter your email address into the chat field when you get a chance. And when you do that, I'll make sure that you receive that email. So with no further ado, I give you Bill Murphy.
Hello, everyone. Can anybody, you can hear me? I'm not so good at this, so you'll have to bear with some of my presentation here but as I get going. But anyway, I thank you all for coming. It's my pleasure to be here, and a special thanks go out to Daryl Head and Mike Price for jointly setting this up and giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody. Now, I know from what I hear there's a bunch of questions that you all, or some of you, would like to ask me and so on, so rather than ramble too long, I'm going to try to give you the basics of what the Gold Antitrust Action Committee is all about, and most importantly, why I think it's such a big deal, and why it's the most important thing, to know about the gold market. So first of all, just some background of how this thing started out. I used to be a limit position trader in the futures market, so back in another life, so I know something about it. And before I started my website, I'd heard about this big hedge fund called Long-Term Capital Management, and that they were short 400 tons of gold, and then they blew up. And when they blew up, I just started my website, and I said, well, they're going to have to cover this gold. And I saw at the time, I saw Goldman Sachs, Chase Bank, Morgan, these big banks, Deutsche Bank, all coming in when gold was around $300 an ounce and stopping it. And then I heard some other things from other dealers, and I realized after about 3 or 4 weeks that this thing was rigged. There was no way that they were going to let the price go up and jeopardize their other positions. So I started doing a daily rant, and that's when Chris Powell, the editor of a daily newspaper, said, Bill, I'm tired of you complaining about it. You're right. It's a violation of U.S. antitrust laws. Let's do something about it. So we formed Gata. And it's interesting to me because I saw in some of the earlier comments that Silver Future was talking about Jim Rickards, who was just a very impressive guy, extremely knowledgeable, was recently on King World News, but he actually is allowed to talk in the public domain on CNBC and places like that. And he was the senior counsel for Long-Term Capital Management. So I had correspondence from him years ago in which we had a big go back and forth about long-term capital management involved in this thing. And he seems to have claimed that we said they were manipulating the market. We said no, that they were just involved heavily short the gold market and facilitating the thing. And then we went back and forth, and he didn't want to get in any further, so we stopped it. But it's so much fun to see him be one of the most bullish people in the whole world about gold and silver, because he knows what Gata knows. And so we wish him well, and so on. But anyway, getting back to how this all started, way back when he ran Goldman Sachs, a brilliant man, obviously, realized that he could borrow gold from central banks at very cheap rates, 0.5%, 1%, and sell the gold in the marketplace and use these proceeds to run his operation. Now, I know this for a fact because one of our big supporters reported directly to him at Goldman Sachs, so it isn't hearsay. And when word got out, and interest rates back then were 8 or 10%, heck, you could borrow, money at rates of 1% as long as gold stayed the same or went down. What had been added? It's like free money. So many other people began to do the same thing. Then when Robert Rubin became Treasury Secretary, it was some of you have heard his big thing was the quote, the strong dollar policy. You probably heard about that for years. Well, the essence of the strong dollar policy was to rig the gold market or suppress the price because there was a relationship between gold and interest rates, which the following Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers, who's now running Obama's campaign, wrote a paper about at Harvard called Gibson's Paradox and the Gold Standard of the relationship between these rates. Anyway, what happened was the U.S. government, trying to keep the price of gold down, interest rates down, and to keep the dollar stronger than it would be, help our financial markets, give confidence, began a program to suppress the gold price. And that's how it all started. And eventually all these central banks began getting involved in dumping gold to the bottom of the market. I mean, the Bank of England is the most famous one of all. Now, the good news in all of this is that people think that the central banks have 30,000 tons of gold left. They do not. We've had a number of studies, the people in our camp, they have less than 15,000 tons. And they've been using this gold to surreptitiously suppress the price and keeping it way below where it would have been. You've heard many people say, and it's not just the Gata camp, that if gold had kept price with inflation, it would be $2,300 an ounce. So we're talking double the price of where it is today. That's how much damage they've done to the market. However, the problem is they're running out of available supply. The European central banks have stopped selling. I think of it an army that their casualties have been so bad and they're running out of ammunition that they have to retreat. And that retreat in this market is always going to higher ground. And, geez, we've been up 10 years in a row, and it's because they have to go through what we call a managed retreat. All they can do is delay the price from going up so much per year to stop too much excitement and to prevent some of these bullion banks from blowing up. Now, as we know, God has stood alone, and some of our supporters out there, some of which I know are on this broadcast, we know that the gold price has been manipulated, and we're talking about silver too, which we'll get into. And a lot of it's just public record from Bank of International Settlement Statements, Reserve Bank of Australia, Fed minutes. We could go on and on and on. The stuff we've collected for 10 years all hangs together. But what's key is our track record. We have been correct for 10 years in a row. Yet if you go to most in the mainstream gold world and look at what their track record is and what they were saying, what gold was going to do and why, or these Wall Street firms, they've been neutral to bearish almost all the way up. And you think somebody out there outside of our world will say, geez, what do these guys know that Wall Street or the mainstream gold world doesn't know? And that's the exact same case today. But we put a lot of effort into this over the years. I'm around the smartest guys I've ever known in my life. We've had 3 international gold conferences, one in Durban, South Africa, 2001 May, Gold Rush 21, Dawson City, 2005 in August, and then in April of 2008, Washington, D.C. We've been to the Speaker of the House. We've been to President Bush's friends. We've had all kinds of contacts with people. A lot of you know Ron Paul, and recently he started talking about issues, and pretty much admitted publicly now that Gata is correct about what the central bank's doing. So we put a lot of hard work, effort in it, but again, it's not just to go into our shtick and what we do, but to give you the confidence that we know what we're talking about, been right for 10 years, and where the price was going. At Gold Rush 21, which was just a magical conference way up there in the Yukon, Andrei Bykov, an economic consultant to President Putin, came, said it was the finest conference he was ever at. I know we have a lot of silver folks here, and Hugo Salinas Price, the Mr. Silver of Mexico, maybe Mr. Silver in the world. He was there. He had the TV station, TBS Tech there, and so on. But at that conference, and I urge you to go to Gata.org, and if you haven't seen it yet, go at least to see the 2-minute video of Gold Rush 21, which I said to state that with the price was $436 then, that the price was going to go to $3,000 to $5,000 to clear the market. And we've been going up ever since then. And as you know, we're only at 1240, 1250. We have a long way to go. But it's very exciting. And the key to all of this is that there's a huge supply-demand deficit. And the deficit, meaning that, the demand over the years over mine and scrap supply, has been met by this central bank selling, which is drying up. As I said, the European central banks have stopped selling. The IMF is the only major seller right now, but all their gold's being bought by Russia. And they just don't have the gold to meet the supply-demand deficit. So what we think we're going to get into is a big physical problem, which we can get into later on, when it has to do with allocated accounts and the fractional gold selling and all that kind of thing. But we're in a very exciting time right now. The gold cartel, as we call them, which is the billion banks that are involved in this gold price suppression scheme, along with like the Bank of England, and of course the Fed and Treasury of the United States government. They're under some pretty big trouble right now, as I mentioned, because of this physical situation. And we believe we are now at a time when things could be explosive. Now, a lot of you are, as I said, interested in silver, and quite frankly, so have I been for a very little time here, because while they still have access to some physical market gold and they can get it, we think they've hit the wall with silver. Why have they kept the price of silver down? Because you can't have gold exploding, gold under pressure and being low, and silver exploding. So they decided way back when to manipulate silver along with the price of gold to deflect attention from a lousy gold performance. It's why, for example, just recently, these trading desk bullion banks, some of these new financial rules, all commodities, or they can't, a lot of these banks can't trade commodities anymore for their own account, but gold and silver got exemptions, huh? Why? And that's another subject unto itself. But anyway, many of you, like myself, have been looking for silver to explode for a long time, and quite frankly, until the past month, the action has stunk up the place. It's been terrible. And every time that silver would look good, or the buyers would come in, J.P. Morgan, who's the big short, would bomb the market. And we presented this, some of you may know about our CFTC hearing on March 25th, in which one of our supporters showed emails. He'd been talking to the CFTC of how they've been manipulating the market ahead of time with their people, and in antitrust fashion, they would coordinate, go after silver, and wipe out the specs over and over again. So we presented this to the CFTC. I know I've been one of their commissioners, Bart Chilton, is a friend. I've been down to see him. Believe it or not, he's the only one for it, but he hopes to have something out this month on what's going on. There is an investigation. It's progressing. But honestly, if it weren't for Bart Chilton, I don't think anything would happen. But the point is, we showed emails of what Morgan said in advance. And our fellow, Andrew McGuire, told the CFTC in advance exactly the day when Morgan was going to attack. And it happened. And we have these emails. We passed them out. And of course, it was a big deal on the internet. And some of you know my testimony was the only one not shown on web TV. They said it was just a fluke. It was some fluke. And then again, some of you know Andrew McGuire, who gave us this a special paper to present to FTC, was almost killed, he and his wife, the next day. And then said that was a fluke too. He was hit by a car, helicopter chase. It was one wild story. But getting back to where we are now, it's so exciting because the silver the past month has been like a, I don't know, leopard with new spots or something. It's trading totally differently.